Elisabeth Sjødahl, som førsteamanuensis på AHO, hvor hun gjør ferdig doktoraden sin om planlegging, landskapsarkitektur og vannhåndtering. Og hun har også en praksis ved siden av skolen som heter Works on Land, hvor hun driver med arkitektur og landskapsarkitektur og byutvikling, som oftest med problemstillinger knyttet til vann. Og så skal vi fortsette rett etter dette med Loretta van der Tann. Da får vi et nytt engelsk innlegg, som utviklet sivilingeniør på ETH i Zürich, og som jobber i NGI med prosjektet under Oslo, forskningsprosjektet under Oslo, og som kommer til å introdusere dette, det som heter så fint Urban Subsurface Functions. Og så skal vi ha selveste kommunegeologen til slutt, Ingløv Eriksson, som geolog fra Göteborgs universitet. Og som har jobbet i Plan og Bygg tidligere med prosjekter for å kartlegge infrastruktur under Oslo, og som nå driver med et forskningsprosjekt på NGI om dette, for kommunen om dette temaet. Vi bare kjører i gang der, Elisabeth, før jeg roter det mer til, så vær så god.
Ja, tusen takk for innbjørn. So I'll make this in English because we have a few guests also in English. And I will take over from Karin, who has shown the natural settings and the importance of it. And in Oslo, we have a few challenges with click clay and island clay and so on. So it's very important, and that is coming later. So I'll just go directly to the theme of the man-made ground here. And I will present it first as the theme of it, and then a case study as showstopper, and then a few reflections of planning and ground. So I'll just start, so I'll get the time going. So these are photos from the situation in Oslo, where we have at the left the landfills at Stabberud, which is now an urbanized area. So this was formerly the landfill from the municipality, one of them, which was at that time at the outskirts of the city. And now we are growing and meeting these challenges in our urban projects. And here to the right, you have the civil constructions. This is where the Alna River, when it was put in pipes, now we're trying to open it up again. But this was from in the beginning of the 20th century. So why these are so important is while actually some of the things we have very well documented where they are, but it's been ongoing, the remodelation of this surface of the earth, actually. If we look at it at a global perspective, what we move around as masses is about 3 times as much as the rivers on earth move in sedimentations each year, what we do as human beings. So what we find, we first have the geological setting, but what is now the human-made ground is very important. And we are good at putting up the register of what is the past, that is far away in the past, but the recent history of what is actually done is not so well documented. So we can often find also surprises, because what we have underground when it comes to installations, it's costly to take them off. So it's a kind of accumulation over time of more and more things that we can find, which of course, when you're doing a project, is something that you get to in the end. So why is this getting more urgent? It is in relation to one thing that there is policies of no more new land takes. So we are going to build on the same sites again. So we're going to face what we left there before. And also in terms of other themes of biodiversity, for example, all new land takes is one of the greatest threats for biodiversity. So we are also getting back to facing these grounds. And in terms also of climate change, especially here where we have more heavy rains coming in shorter moments, we are washing out what we actually have stored in these grounds. So it's also what we have and the quality of our water afterwards. And that is what we find then in the EU directives, that we need to get to good or fairly good water quality. So when we need to obtain this goal, we're coming back to the sources that actually changes the properties of water and the pollution of the grounds. So I'm jumping directly into a case study. So that was the experience from the showstopper of the ground. So this case study is about a landfill, a river overflowing project in which few landfill was discovered on the way, which is quite normal, actually. I'll go quite quick because so what we have here, this is in the municipality of Skien. And I'll see if I can point. Yeah. We have the river starting up here in a dam for drinking water from the start and going down to the river of Skien. But today it is just open this piece, and the project was to reopen what you see here in stippled lines. That was the start. And then with the maps, what you see in pink here and there was the old riverbed that had this form and was, as in many cases actually, when the rivers were put in pipes, they were filled up with materials that you found near to the site. And in this case, it was also filled up with household waste and different kinds of waste. So we have here the landfill and the landfill. In this case, if we would have opened like this, we will have passed through it. And then the relation between water and all landfill would just spread it out. So this was the first mapping, and that questions how to do it. And we also see here that we have also had buildings built on top of it. Firstly, as industrial buildings, but with a change over time, new users are coming in and changes in the area, industrial uses for others, civic uses. So in a project sense, what this led us to was to study when we had these showstoppers of the projects to find out what is possible to do. So in this case, it was to see different modes. This is one where it was digged out, the possibility of doing it, sorting the different kind of contaminations, if it's very polluted, treating somewhere else, and then reused what it could be. Because we have a challenge here that these grounds, human-made grounds, they are so important in depth. Here you had 12 meters, but we have other that are 60 meters, 80 meters. So it is not easy just to dig up. So then there comes the question, can you integrate it within the projects? But then of course you got to know what's underground. So from the showstopper, we had the good opportunity to be able also to, from being a part of a project, coming into a context where we actually understood that our knowledge is not enough here to see what to do with these grounds. So starting then to work together with the NGI, as we commented before, and to get the knowledge on the ground on its toxicity and what is possible to do. So as this is a short lecture, these different possibilities are summed up in this one. This is a report for the Minister of Environment, in which we actually see which are the possibilities of digging out, going around, also technical solutions when it's not possible, and if you can't do it directly, how you can make it in a way that when you can have a greater capacity for water for holding on and not running over and through the old landfill. But what I would like to also highlight here is the question of that we have in the strategies for water that we have generally from the municipalities, that we have to really inform also the projects about the ground, because otherwise, as in this case, on some areas, what you definitely shouldn't do is to infiltrate the water, because then you spread out the different toxics. Okay, so here was then this, so to say, strategic plan of how to deal with it. So instead of going what we saw before, this is a more technical way of bringing the water this way over the landfill, trying to see to how to model the terrain and going around the problem. So here's a lot of versions of going around the problem. Now this is the landfill area, and the pink is the public ground. So which are a bit putting up the possibilities for going around instead of, because also what we did there was to go around to other places to see what have they done. So this is the Oslo setting, just to see if that was a problematic that was just there, but we have it in general and also affecting the water quality. So I'll speed up a bit and just showing that this is also the case in Oslo, where we have also the landfills and new development coming up. But if we zoom out, and that is the possibility with the planning, to zoom out and find other possibilities and place for the planning of it. Okay, so this is the last part, to just show which different relations we've had to the underground installation in itself. So in this case, we have the relation where the underground installation is dependent and inserted in the street section, as in Ceuta, Barcelona, and Paris, and so on. We also have what we found a lot of in this case, independent underground infrastructure that follows the logic of the shortest cut to get to a point. But these geometries are very complicated in the moment of further expansion in these areas. So this is where we find in the peri-urban and so on. And this is the Oslo setting, where the technical questions or the questions of the ground are solved with technical solutions. And it also has its challenges because you're conditioning quite a lot the ground. So we saw before in the projects of Manhattan, how you actually adapt to make high rise where the rocks are permitting it and low rise in the rest. And here we're challenging that. And next tube system for the next tube line, it might also challenge this structure. Okay, so what would be interesting is to get a more underground informed planning, because we have so many things that are crossing and linking above ground with underground. So the water, the structures of infrastructure of all the tubes and the canals that we're making for the supplies. Also the buildings are crossing the both of them. Also energy. Today we don't need to ask for permission to make a drill hole for energy. So this is something that is coming. And also the question of the polluted ground, how we deal with it. And above all, now talking from a landscape point of view, if we want to plant a tree, we need to know and plan for it so that we're not in the end obliged to plan above ground too much conditioned of what's going on under. So up until today, we have it very defined above ground, but a few questions under it. And what would be interesting is to tie it tighter together. Okay. Thank you.